Good morning, everyone. For those, thank you so much for coming and joining us here and online. For those of you who may not know me, I am Meg Turner, Senator Gabbard's office manager for the past 12 years. And Melanie June is his community liaison. And she's been with us for about 2 years now and is running the Zoom and the PowerPoint. And we're so happy to see everyone here today. You're wondering where's Senator Gabbard. So unfortunately, he's not well this morning. He's on his way here and he actually threw up on his way here. But he had to turn around and go home. And so I'll be doing just our brief introduction of our guest speaker. And then if we have time, Melanie will give some community updates. Okay, and as most of you know, Senator Gabbard has been serving in the state Senate since 2006. This is his 10th year of chair of the Agriculture and Environment Committee, and he also serves as vice chair of Judiciary and Government Operations. Prior to serving in the Senate, he represented West Oahu on the Honolulu City Council, and he currently represents District 21, which includes Kapolei, Makakilo, Kaleloa, Hanakaihali, and portions of Fernandez Village, Eva, and Ko'olina. Most of you know that. We're also recording this Zoom meeting so it'll be on YouTube later. So part of this is for the benefit of YouTube watchers as well. Before we get started, just on a more personal note, Senator wanted me to convey his gratitude and just take a moment to thank all of you for your continued support and trust. As many of you may know, the candidate filing deadline recently passed, and so no one filed to run against him. So that means he'll be the senator again for the next 4 years. Yay! And a couple of quick housekeeping items to make sure everyone has an opportunity to ask questions. Melanie handed out some question cards at the beginning of today's meeting. So if you didn't receive one, there's extras on the table. And we're trying something a little new this morning, and Melanie can pass them out to you. But basically, if you think of questions while you're sitting there today, you can just jot them down on the cards, and then Melanie will come around and pick them up and bring them to me. And then Stephen, who I'll introduce in just a minute, he will be available to answer your questions. And then if there's questions that aren't related to our presentation, we can take those back to the senator if we can't answer them. Okay, so also just a quick note, if you need to use the restrooms, you just go out this door, exit to the right, and they're just beyond the cafeteria. You just follow that wall and you'll see them on the right. So, Stephen Moduli Williams from Amazon, we're so grateful to have him here today. And Stephen serves as Amazon's head of community engagement for Hawaii and the Pacific region. He works closely with local communities, nonprofits, educators, and government partners throughout our state. This morning, Stephen will share an overview of Amazon's work in Hawaii, discuss opportunities available to local residents and organizations, and provide insight into how Amazon is partnering with communities across our state. We'll have time for questions following Stephen's presentation, so please feel free to jot them down on the cards. As I said, we're recording today's meeting, and the video will be posted on Senator's YouTube channel. And you'll be able to watch it later or share it with family and friends. If you think of additional questions after today's meeting, please feel free to contact our office at sendgabbard@capitol.hawaii.gov, or you can call us at 808-586-6830. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Stephen from Amazon. Thankful, Stephen. And why don't you come on up here, Stephen? And we're going to let Stephen take my place for our Zoom listeners. And thank you very much. You can just put your And we'll run the presentation and then Stephen will be on Zoom.
Okay, great. In terms of the mic, is it already on or?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Aloha, everyone, online. Good morning, everyone. I'm Stephen Meduli Williams, the Senior Economic Development Manager at Amazon. I'm here today to talk to you about, really provide you with an update of our project here in Kapolei. That is a roughly 2.8 million square foot Amazon fulfillment center. We're really excited to be here because this is a project that we've thought long and hard about for over the past several years. And one thing I want to stress is the number one reason why we're here in West Oahu is because our goal is to be closer to customers in the state of Hawaii. And this new facility would help us do that. And I think there are a couple real important benefits that I like to kind of really highlight about this particular facility. Right now, kind of the challenge here is that right now, given the current state of ordering from Amazon or just being able to get goods and services or goods at a competitive price, is that delivery times are longer, access is limited, and ultimately uh, residents in Hawaii do not have the ability to receive the same level of consumer activity as a community in the mainland. Um, what will happen with this new facility, one is that you'll see faster delivery times, a significantly increased ability to order any type of good in terms of access to different type of goods. And I think even from a more important standpoint, you'll start to see the cost of shipping go down fairly dramatically, particularly for those of you who are Amazon Prime customers. So with that said, I'd like to start with the presentation. Um, so again, what we're building is called a Amazon Fulfillment Center, or for our vernacular, it's called a uh, robotics sortation center, advanced robotics sortation center. And really, what this facility is, it's really kind of the benchmark of our logistic network across the globe. When you order something from Amazon, that package usually comes from a fulfillment center. And really, they're kind of based on, for the most part, they're located on a regional basis. They generally serve about a 300-mile radius. Right now, what happens if you order something from Amazon, it's going to come from a fulfillment center in Ontario, California, and then ultimately get flown here via Amazon Prime Air, Amazon Air, and then goes to our distribution center or last mile delivery station in Staten Island, and then it gets delivered to you by our delivery vans. And that you still see increased delivery times with that. And more importantly, the selection in terms of items that you can buy for our customers are still relatively limited. By having a fulfillment center here on the island, what happens is that we have the ability to store a significant amount of inventory. And our inventory really is kind of, particularly for Oahu, will be broken down into three key categories. The first being everyday essential items, and that's everything from toothpaste, soap, paper towels, toilet paper, things that you get on a daily basis that you order will be stored in bulk here at that facility. In addition to that, the second tier item that you'll be able to get from a fulfillment center are things that are native to the state, Oahu, and some of the other islands, outer islands, meaning that things that you typically customers here in Oahu and some of the other islands order. What happens is that every 6 months we have an algorithm that will take a look at all what your purchasing activity, what are the things that you like to buy, and we'll be able to store those things based on your historical spending patterns. And what's neat about that is that seeing that, um, this facility will be on an island, it allows us to really dial into what our customers here in Oahu and some of the outer islands really want to purchase. So we think that's a real added benefit. And then lastly, the thing that we'll also evaluate the ability to actually store heavy bulky items, which are really expensive to ship. And so if we have the ability to store heavy bulky items like a mattress or something like that, it makes it that much easier for you to get that item more cost effectively and quicker. Um, Oh, next slide, please. Um, so we purchased this roughly 49-acre parcel in 2021 with the thought of building a fulfillment center. Maybe several months, maybe 2 months later, we purchased the facility in Sand Island. We made the decision to move forward with the development of the Sand Island facility first, because we wanted to be able to have faster delivery times. Because at that time, the delivery times we were primarily utilizing the Postal Service and UPS, and we had customers that were getting packages in 5 and 6, 7 days. And we felt that by building the delivery station first that addressed the timeliness of our deliveries relatively quickly, and we've started to see some significant improvement in our delivery times. Now that we've got the Sand Island facility up and running, that facility has over 500 employees. We're excited now to move forward with kind of our second phase in terms of expanding our network, and that's our goal, is to build this fulfillment center likely in 2029, 2030. Obviously, there's a pretty lengthy entitlement process associated with that, but I'll talk about that in a minute. Um, and so in 2021, we purchased, 49 acres of land broken into four parcels. And our challenge with this particular site is that it's a very compact site. We have neighbors on the right and the left of us. And typically when we build a fulfillment center, we usually build it on a space of about 80 acres. And to be perfectly honest, 49 acres in terms of contiguous parcels is the biggest site we could find. And so what's happened is that what we'll need to do in order to have the inventory, we need to kind of service the state instead of building, having a more spread out layout site plan. What we're going to do is build vertically. But unfortunately, right now, the site is zoned for a height limit of roughly about 60 feet. And so our goal is to build up to 100 feet so that we can build multiple stories so that we can store the inventory that we actually need to service our customers here on island. Next slide. As I said before, our objective is to go from 60 feet to 100 feet. In order to do that, what we had to do is file an application for a zone change with DPP here. And so the nuance of our particular zoning change is that even though the parcels sit on 49 acres, our intent is only to rezone the 16 acres that really kind of compromise the building itself. So it's comprised the building itself. So we're not rezoning the whole area to 100 feet. We're really doing what's called in the industry spot zoning. We're only going to zone the building itself so that we can build the 4 stories that we need to house the inventory that we like. In terms of this rezoning application, I'll talk a little bit about the process in terms of with DPP, the entitlement process. So we in mid-March, we submitted our application with DPP for rezoning. And the way that works is that they have to receive the application, review it for completeness, and accept it. And on May 4th, we got notice from DPP that they reviewed the application, they received it, they reviewed it, and they deemed it complete, meaning that they had no additional questions about the application itself. Very lengthy 100+ page application. So that was, kind of really the start of the official entitlement process. The next step, what happens is that after the application is deemed complete, there's a 45-day public comment period, meaning that the general public has 45 days to look at that application and submit comments. That public comment period officially ended on June 18th. And so in our recent conversations with DPP, what they've said to us, the Department of Planning, is that there have been numerous comments from the public about the project. And what they'll do next is take those comments, review those, and use that as part of their analysis of the overall application. And that's kind of where we are right now. We're waiting to hear back from DPP in terms of that application process, their actual individual review, and then their assessment of all the comments. What happens next is that once they review the application, and then they will make a recommendation to the Planning Commission. And that process takes about 60 days. We hope to hear from DPP probably within the next, two to 4 weeks in terms of the actual zoning application. And then we'll know whether or not they're going to make a recommendation to the Planning Commission that this project moves forward. Um, so, and if it moves forward to the Planning Commission, it gets heard there. And then the next phase ultimately is that this project will go to the City Council, Honolulu City Council for approval. We think that this whole process will take uh, roughly 6 more months, meaning that, it'll at some point in the third quarter, it'll go in front of the Planning Commission, which will be a public hearing, and which the public will be able to attend and make public comment. Um, and then ultimately, the Planning Commission will make a recommendation, and then it'll go through the approval process, the legislative process associated with the City Council, which could take us until the end of the year or possibly even longer in terms of the early 2027. So that's really kind of where this project is right now. Basically, we submitted a rezoning application. It's currently being reviewed by DPP. There was a public comment period that expired on June 18th, where the community had an opportunity to make comments uh, uh, on the application itself. The other thing I want to highlight is that even before we submitted the actual application to DPP, we did an initial presentation in December uh, to the neighborhood board. And then once we submitted the application to DPP, we did a follow-up presentation about 3 weeks ago to the neighborhood board as well. At some point in the future, we'll probably reach out to some of the other neighborhood boards in addition to neighborhood board number 34. But our goal is to continue to look for ways to talk about the project and really talk about what it is and what it's not. And that's something, again, that we've done fairly consistently. And that's something we'll continue to do as we kind of go through not only the what we call the approval process or the entitlement process. Next slide. What you see in front of you is kind of what we call the site plan. And this is pretty much what we've submitted to DBP in terms of the layout of the site. You have the building itself, again, which is roughly about 2.8 million square feet. You've got 2 parking lots. And real quick, I just want to kind of highlight in terms of we have parking lots for trailer trucks, which will hold roughly up to about 782. Yeah, roughly about 372 trailer stalls. We have a parking garage and some additional parking outside. The parking garage itself will hold roughly 730 stalls for passenger vehicles. And then in addition to that, I think the total number of auto parking for passenger vehicles is roughly about 893 stalls. So separate parking garage that was generally in front of the site. And then we'll have the building itself, which is roughly 2.8 million square feet, again, 4 levels. And then we have two parcels two parcels that'll be combined to be used for 2 separate parking lots for our trailer trucks. The one thing I also want to mention is that there are also 50 dock doors uh, on the building. And we've also got additional space in the smaller parking lot for truck queuing or truck turning. So I think the important thing to note is that all of the trailer parking, the trailer queuing, the employee parking, all of that will happen on site. So there will be zero impacts from any parking associated with either the employees or the trucks in the outer neighborhood. So we are really intentional about that we built this facility so that it's pretty self-contained. All the operational activity and parking will happen on the site premises. Next slide. So this is a rendering of the parking garage. And one thing I'll note about not only the parking garage and something that you'll see in a minute associated with the facility is that after our first neighborhood board meeting, it was really an opportunity for us to kind of listen and speak with residents about some things they liked about the project, some things they didn't like. And one of the themes that was communicated to us is that it was important that, from a pure aesthetic and artistic standpoint, and this really includes both art and landscaping, that this particular project is somehow representative of what residents want to see in Kapolei. So with that in mind, we engaged the local architect Wissett to work along with our project architect to come up with some design elements that really focused on cultural elements that are reflective of Kapolei and West Oahu. And so that's something that you'll see not only on the parking garage, but in the building itself, and then definitely pretty extensively with landscaping, which is both native and sustainable in the sense that it is uh, utilizing significantly less. It's designed to utilize significantly less water. Next slide. So this is kind of a aerial rendering of the building itself, just so you can see from scale. As I mentioned before, working with the local firm Wissett, we are able to, put some exterior architectural elements, design elements on the building, not only on the sides of the building, but also in the entrance. Next slide. Another aerial view of the building itself. Um, Next slide. And again, this is another view that you know it's an idea that if you're in the hills and you're able to kind of see the building from afar, this is ultimately what you'll see. And again, we're in an industrial park, so we have other neighbors as well. Next slide. So I know one question that always comes up, and it's about traffic. And so what's our plan for traffic and how will we, really fit into kind of the existing fabric in Kapolei, particularly as it relates to traffic? So one element that we are incorporating was called Traffic Demand Management Program, or TDM for short. And it really focuses on how can we minimize the trips, particularly trips associated with passenger vehicles. And a lot of that involves kind of direct involvement from Amazon perspective on a daily basis. So one, it's something as simple as hiring a transportation coordinator internally that really kind of works on, creating ride share opportunities, van share opportunities, things like that, that allow, people within a specific neighborhood to share either vans or autos to come to work to reduce the number of vehicles that are actually coming to the site. We've got, um, uh, ability to, we have bicycle facilities that will also be added. If you can go back, yeah, that will also be added to the site. So if you want to ride your bike to work, you can do that. In addition to that, we've also have about, I think, 18 stalls for motorcycles. So if anyone wants to ride their motorcycle to work or e-bike or scooter. Um, and then from a retail standpoint, in our cafeteria, we have a number of different vending machines and other machines that really serve full lunches, things like that, so that you don't actually have to go outside of the facility to purchase things. You can if you need to, but we want to make it as convenient for people so that they can reduce the number of trips that they're making in and outside of the site. And one thing that we've done at other sites, particularly with fulfillment centers, is that we've organized food trucks to come into the parking lot for our employees. That's another way, one, to kind of, stimulate economic development activity, but it brings, it allows our employees to kind of stay on site if they want to have, different meals and things like that. And it's great for the food truck companies. This is something I've worked on pretty directly a couple of times, so excited to be able to do that here as well. And then the last thing is really coordinating with the local transit agencies around having bus service to the site. That's something that we do we find that we do this for many of our fulfillment centers. So it's not an uncommon thing for us to ask for bus stops and things like this. From a pure operational perspective, we anticipate having 2 or 3 shifts at this site. One is an early morning shift, and the other is an evening, well, basically a late night shift. Early morning is that the employees will generally come to work at about 6 a.m., work generally a 10-hour shift, and leave about 3 or 4 p.m. The night shift generally comes in about, I would say, probably between 7 and 9 p.m., and they'll work 10 hours and leave at about 4 a.m. Those generally kind of the 2 basic shifts, but there could be a third shift that's still yet to be determined. But the employees are really kind of split between those 2 or 3 shifts. We design our shifts so that we try to avoid morning peak. So again, in the morning, our employees should be here before you start to, go to school in the morning, before you go to the grocery store, things like that, or go to work. And then a night shift obviously comes overnight where everyone's generally at home, and there's not a lot of traffic on the roads. Uh, Next slide. So, in terms of workplace safety, particularly as it relates to the building, so a couple things that we will certainly have in place. One is an emergency, particularly, with the threat of a natural disaster. We'll have an emergency evacuation plan in place, as well as a severe weather assembly area, a SWA. And so those are two things that we're, designing into this particular facility, in addition to warning signage and things like that. So from a pure public safety, workforce safety standpoint, as it relates to just the location of the facility, those are some measures that will be implemented at this site. The other thing I want to mention about safety real quick is that I know we get a lot of questions about that, and I just want to stress that since 2019, Amazon has invested over $2.5 billion in worker safety. On average, we have about 11 different safety audits and inspections, 11,000 every year at all the different facilities. It's something that generally is part of our DNA. We're very committed to it. So one of the reasons why we've utilized robotics in our facilities, because what happens with robotics is that they're not used to replace employees. They're really used to really have our employees more focused on skill activities, highly skilled activities, opposed to kind of the more routine task, which we, our robotics are really, that's one of their functions, is to kind of do some of the repetitive, less safe activities where our employees are more focused on highly skilled tasks. This is a relationship where, robotics and our employees, we've been integrating robotics in the facility since 2019. Since that time, we've hired hundreds of thousands of employees. So our intent is to continue this relationship where we utilize robots to help make our employees more efficient and work on more skilled tasks within Amazon. Next slide. In terms of sustainability, this particular facility will have a solar roof. Our HVAC system will be all electric. We plan on utilizing low carbon building materials, low flow water, as well. And this is things that we do at all our sites. So it's, definitely intentional here in terms of Oahu, but this is, this is a strategy in terms of sustainability that we focus on all our sites. As I mentioned before, we'll certainly have native landscaping, as well as enhanced tree density, and that's something that we're working through right now. In terms of van deliveries, and this is, I know, another question that some people have had. So there will be no van deliveries out of this particular facility. So all of our vans, they will be delivered primarily out of our facility in Staten Island, just like they are now. And so the only times you'll see a van in your neighborhoods is when they're making a delivery. The other thing that I'll mention about our vans is that in 2027, we've been working on uh, preparing to deliver utilized electric vans and as part of our delivery. So we will replace the combustion engine vans that are currently delivering with our electric fleet, and that process is in flight now. And we're really just waiting to confirm our energy from that power from HECO. But that is our plan for 2027 to convert the full fleet that's being used to deliver packages on the island to an electric fleet. Next slide. Community benefits. So that's another question that has come up quite a bit. And so I think the way to think about this from a community perspective, at least our initial framework, is that we're really kind of thinking or focused on a couple of different areas. One being employment, and that is the jobs that we're going to create. And I'll talk quite a bit about that more in a minute. But this facility is going to generate 1,000+ jobs. And one thing we've historically done at Amazon is really focused on hiring people who live in the communities that our facilities operate in. And so, and that's, primarily what we did with the first facility in Sand Island, is that we reached out to local nonprofit partners, and that's who we really utilize to do our hiring. We don't have, a direct hiring presence on island. And so what we'll do as we get 6 months closer into the facility being operational, we'll reach out to local workforce development partners, and we'll ask them to work with us to identify their own clients and have them apply for jobs at Amazon. And that's, again, that's exactly what we did. I think we had somewhere between 8 to 10 different workforce development partners that we utilized for the hiring of Sand Island, at our facility in Sand Island. Again, we're talking about double the jobs, at least double the jobs here. And so we'll probably start that process early. But the thing that we will be very intentional about is identifying communities in West Oahu to hire from. And again, this is the same thing we've done in other markets. So I think that's kind of the first big kind of community benefit. The second will be education. And this is something that I think that also is pretty important, particularly for residents of West Oahu, is that, we invest in what we call upskilling for all our employees. And we do that in some very real and tangible ways. But one way that I'll talk a little bit more about in detail is a program that we call Career Choice. And that's a program that where Amazon makes prepaid tuition payments for our employees to go back to school, either to get a certificate. If you want to learn Java and get a certificate in Java, we'll pay for that. If you want to get an associate's degree at a local community college, we'll pay for that. Or if you want to go, in this case, to the University of Hawaii, West Oahu, and start to work on a bachelor's degree in nursing or something like that, that's something that we will also support. The thing that we love about the prepaid component is that typically with tuition reimbursement programs, you have to take a class, sign up for a class, pay for it, get a certain grade, and then get reimbursed when the class is over with. We've done away with that. Our model is structured where we actually have relationships with universities, documented contractual relationships with universities, roughly about 220 across the US, two here in Hawaii, but we also have relationships with online universities as well that anyone could take classes at. Where basically you go online as an employee, you sign up for a class, you get the class approved by the university, and once you're accepted into the university, you're enrolled in a class. It's done. It's paid for. Maybe let's say you're taking two classes. You sign up for the program from day one. It's available to you, and it's an Amazon employee, and you can start taking classes. Really easy, really simple, all web-based, and it allows us to invest in our employees in a way that no matter what your career goals are, maybe you start out working at one of our fulfillment centers or one of our last mile delivery stations, but the Career Choice program and other upskilling programs we allow you to go anywhere within Amazon. And again, one of the stories that I'm really excited about to talk about is Stephanie Kalili, who I don't know if she'll be able to make it today, but she actually runs our Sand Island operation. She graduated from college. I think she started working out at Amazon in Wisconsin, and working at a delivery station, um, um, and as a, not as a management tier, but prior to getting to a management tier. And what happens is that she took advantage of the opportunity to grow within Amazon, and she worked at different facilities. Ultimately, she got promoted. We were looking when we first decided to open up the delivery station, and we got to the point where we were getting close to hiring. We're very intentional about hiring as many local residents, particularly Native Hawaiians, as possible. Because one of the things that we were told when we came here to kind of listen to residents in the community about what is it like to open up a facility here is that one of the things that people are not happy about is when corporations come over and they hire, workers from the mainland. And so our goal was not to be a part of that. And so our goal was to hire as many residents as possible, local residents as possible. And the first thing we did was to identify how many Native Hawaiians that are from Hawaii, and so that already within Amazon. So we identified a cohort of Native Hawaiians who actually wanted to come and work at this facility, and Stephanie was one of them. And ultimately, she was selected to manage that facility, and she led the charge in terms of hiring as many local residents as possible. But again, uh, our commitment to education and upskilling is very real. And it's not just, as some people say, it's not just a warehouse job. It's just an opportunity to not only, receive a quality wage with benefits, but also to explore your career opportunities in your own and career growth within Amazon. In terms of economic impact, it's a very large project, and we think it's going to have a significant economic impact on West Oahu. This is direct investment. So not only do you have kind of the operational jobs that will be created, but you'll have hundreds of local construction jobs created as well. And this project will probably take about 2 years to build. And so not only will you have, impacts from the construction related investment, but the facility, the wages, the payroll, the money that's actually spent in West Oahu, because people will be able to, again, work in the community that they live in, spend money in the community that they live in. And so there are there'll be significant multiple effects, or what we call the multiplier effect, in terms of hundreds of $1 billions of direct investment in West Oahu in an operational facility that will have employees who are working directly there. And then lastly, the thing I wanted to highlight is that there are a couple of areas that we kind of focus on from a community investment standpoint. I mentioned education, youth, and one thing that's been a historical focus, particularly in Oahu, has been food insecurity. And so we've got partnerships with several local food banks. And we do a lot of not only direct investment in the food banks, but we also provide a lot of volunteer services from the site itself, meaning that our employees will volunteer their time as well as our delivery drivers to deliver uh, uh, um, goods, particularly food, to impact the communities and impact the segments of the community. And that's something that we do on the mainland, but something that we're really hyper focused on doing here in Oahu, and that's something that we will continue to do, and something that we're looking to expand into West Oahu as well. Next slide. And I'm going to go through the employment piece pretty quickly. Again, 1,000 employees plus day one benefits in Amazon, and includes medical, dental, insurance, life insurance, disability insurance, competitive pay. That also includes dental and vision as well. The one thing that's also pretty unique about Amazon is that every employee receives the exact same benefits package, no matter if you're in a warehouse, you're flying one of the Amazon airplanes, you're an executive, everyone receives the same benefit packages, which is pretty neat. Next slide. Um, the thing I also want to mention, I should mention about compensation is that we're intentional about when we opened the facility in Staten Island. One of the things that we've heard is, obviously that it's expensive on the island. And one thing that we lobbied for is to make sure that, our wages here would be probably some of the highest in North America. And so it's something that we intentionally lobbied for, and our leadership agreed that it was an important part of being here on Oahu. So I just wanted to highlight that as well. In terms of educational partnerships, again, I mentioned our University of Hawaii, West Oahu. It's a relationship that we have cemented now, as well as not only the University of West Oahu, we also have a partnership with Honolulu Community College as well. So our current employees, they can go to those universities right now and take advantage of the career choice program. And again, it doesn't matter what career you want to do. I mean, if you want to go into nursing, information technology, logistics, skilled trades, those are career opportunities that we will support in terms of our career choice program, in terms of funding those for our employees. And you're not required to stay at Amazon. You can go, if you want to start in nursing, you work at Amazon part-time for 3 years, you get your associate's degree in nursing, and you want to go work at a hospital, you're more than free to do that. But if you want to, learn IT and get, a technology certificate and work within a different business line within Amazon, you're free to do that as well. And that's, again, one reason why we love our educational partnerships. Next slide. Again, I talked about economic impact, so I don't think I'll need to go over that one again. Next slide. In terms of community investments, in terms of what we're thinking about for the future, and the caveat that I'll add to this is that we know that the neighborhood board has formed a permanent interaction committee group, and we obviously we're looking forward to that, and we're excited about that, and we want to work pretty collaboratively with the PIG to really kind of come up with a community investment strategy for West Oahu. So we look forward to that process as it's starting now to start to move forward, and anything that we can do to support it, we're more than happy to do. But again, I think some of the kind of main focus areas that we're thinking about are obviously youth organizations, food insecurity, as I mentioned before, and then lastly, community infrastructure in terms of what are things, and these are based on things that we've invested in the past in other communities in terms of, supporting park development, senior centers, replacing bathrooms, things like that. Just things that really kind of impact the fabric of daily life in West Oahu, and in terms of those type of improvements. But again, that's just something for you to think about, and something that we're thinking about. Next slide. Well, I think I probably talked quite a bit. I'm sure you all have a ton of questions and more than happy to start building questions. Thank you. Mahalo.
First question. Is there going to be drone delivery?
Not planned as yet. Drones are still relatively new, and we're rolling those out in California, and we've done them in Arizona. So not any plan yet. I definitely won't say that they won't be drones, but given the location of the site, drone delivery has to go through a pretty extensive FAA approval process. So I think if that is on the table, if that is going to be considered, that's something that we would obviously go through, both federal and local approval process to do that if that's something that we were going to consider. But right now, it's not part of the plans as of yet.
For retail facilities within the Amazon plan, is Amazon considering working with local retailers for convenience store retail?
Well, I think what we'll do there is that right now, I know one thing I can say is that we've always worked with food trucks and things like that. So that's one. But in terms of convenience stores and things like that, um, I think we kind of leave it up to the site leadership if they want to develop partnerships, because there are obviously other communities that have kind of asked the same questions. We kind of leave it up to the site leadership and the employees to kind of decide how they want to interface with local small businesses and other organizations. It's something that we're actually pretty committed to, but we don't, at this stage, we don't make those decisions. We really kind of leave it up to the site leadership to decide how they want to interact with the local business community as well as the nonprofit community.
Hawaii's isolation and culture provides opportunities to operate differently. Scheduling benefits, community involvement are already being planned. I think you addressed.
Absolutely.
Locally sourced and locally produced items would love improved distribution. Will you address what Amazon can improve with this?
So what we're building is a fulfillment center, and the number one, and the one thing about a fulfillment center and just Amazon in general that is not, not truly understood is that, over 60% of everything that's bought from Amazon is, bought, is sold by a small and medium-sized business. Here on island, we've already invested in a group called Pop-Up KK, and they're a group of local small businesses that are Amazon sellers. They have their own, worked with them to create their own webpage where they can actually sell their product outside of the Hawaiian Islands. And when it comes to the fulfillment center itself, we have a program called Fulfilled by Amazon, where actually we'll help identify local sellers, and they can actually store and actually use Amazon to ship their packages to customers, both locally as well as on the mainland. And so part of the way we're structured is to support local small businesses and really help them grow in terms of accessing the internet and broader markets. And that's something, again, that we've already demonstrated that we're willing to do with Pop-Up KK, which has been in existence for 4 years. And that's something that we will continue to do in terms of, identifying specific partnerships that this facility may support. It's probably a little too early to do that, but it's certainly something that we're excited and happy to talk about.
Please discuss resource consumption. What will you consume?
Electricity, water,
Sure.
etc.
So, So in terms of resources, so we try to make our first of all our facilities we try to make our facilities as sustainable as possible. So in terms of water, in this case, there are a couple things. One, we'll have our own water tank on site for storage. A. B, we will utilize low flow fixtures throughout the facility. And this is something that we've done on a lot of our facilities so that the overall consumption on a daily basis, just for pure operations, is significantly reduced by using low flow fixtures. The third thing would be drought resistant landscaping. So those are three kind of intentional measures that we'll use from a pure water standpoint. From an energy standpoint, we'll have solar panels on the site. We'll also have our own transformer purchased from HECO on the site that will be able to generate power, not taking pulling power from any other facility on site. So between solar, a transformer, independent transformer, and then the water preservation measures that we're going to take, we feel that we're pretty comfortable that we won't impact our surrounding community in a negative way from an environmental standpoint.
But you will need infrastructure in terms of transmission lines and water and sewer improvements for the area.
Well, so as part of the original James Campbell investment, a lot of those investments have already been made by James Campbell. So in terms of water, sewer lines, transformers, a lot of those investments are already been made by James Campbell. So
And they are sufficient for your needs.
yes, absolutely. Actually, they are. I mean, for the overall business park, they're more than sufficient for our needs. Sure.
Everything comes into Pearl Harbor. We've got another harbor right over here. Would your product be coming into this harbor also?
That's something we're evaluating now, but we don't really have an answer for that just yet. But it is something that we're looking at. Yeah, the main thing is that it's still relatively early. I mean, we don't anticipate this facility being open to 2030. So 2029, 2030. So we've got a little bit more time before we make that decision.
Well, I was thinking all the traffic is
Yes.
really bad. It has to come from Pearl Harbor to come here to your facility and then go back out again.
Yeah,
If
so
you just do it here, it's all within the industrial park.
right. Ideally, yes. If there's a way to make that feasible, it's certainly something that we'll explore. The one thing I'll mention about truck traffic is that most of our line haul truck traffic will be overnight. So the whole goal is to avoid a lot of traffic that, during the daytimes. So, and so in addition to that, they'll be utilizing Harbor Access Road opposed to the routes that, everyone generally takes as well. So we're hoping between the two in terms of the overnight truck activity, and that's not all trucks, but most of them, the majority of them. And then being able the new opening of Harbor Access Road, I mean, it's open now, but once that's completed in 2029, that will, be able to see a reduction in traffic and particularly when it comes to truck traffic, when the facility's open.
When you say overnight, do you mean like what hours? Just because I'm not sure if you're aware, but our traffic on the west side going to town starts at 4:30 in the morning, like that, and it is actually over by 8:30. I will leave and go to town, but if you have to get a flight at 6, be there at the airport at 6, it can be hours. So I mean, I'm sure the traffic studies have been done,
Yep.
but have you looked into that and what that overnight is actually?
Well, overnight typically is anything from 8 p.m. to about 4 a.m. So, and we make adjustments based on the local traffic patterns. And as we get closer to opening the site, we'll take a deeper, obviously we've done, a couple of traffic studies, and things change in a couple of years. So we'll reevaluate as we get closer to opening the site when it comes to routes and timing in terms of line haul trucks. Sure.
You said you're gonna have PV. Is that gonna be a direct feed into Eco, or you're gonna have batteries?
I'm not sure. So I'll look into that only because one of the challenges that what we're seeing is that we think that we want batteries, but the question is, are the batteries actually there yet? So, and that's something that I'm pretty sure that we're still negotiating with HECO in terms of whether or not we'll feed directly. But a lot of it is the technology is, you've got to have a place for the battery. And I don't know that we've kind of decided which path we're going to take just yet.
Thanks for.
Sure.
Do you have a similar facility, another fulfillment center that has existed for, say, 2 years that is comparable in size and location that we can compare the stats for?
Yes and no. We have a couple that are under construction. Well, one in particular, in California that's under construction. Do you mean from a similarity from an island location standpoint or from a size standpoint?
Population and amount of customers served.
It's probably, you know what, let me take a look at that. I would only say that because here we're talking about, when you look at Oahu and all the islands, roughly about 1.8 million customers. Again, as I said before, most of our fulfillment centers are probably more regional in nature. I think we may have one in Salinas, which is in Central California, not as dense as some of the other areas. That it's definitely very similar in size, and that may have the same numbers from a customer standpoint. That in any particular, I'm just kind of curious about any particular data that you.
How well your projections are fulfilled within a year or two of beginning the operation, so that we can see how well your projections work in the past.
Okay. Happy to talk a little bit more about that. And if you can provide, when you talk about projections, if you can be a little bit more specific about
Jobs.
Jobs. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think well, that we can definitely talk about. Yeah, absolutely. But I will tell you that 1,000 plus is definitely a minimum. Yeah.
And,
Sure.
happy to see that you're doing like community benefits. But I do sometimes have concern when that money gets distributed that the choices for it are not locally controlled, and so that the city of Honolulu is not deciding where the money goes, because a lot of times when the city of Honolulu decides where our money goes, it's not to the west side and to Kapolei in particular. So I'm not sure what type of
I
way
could speak.
that money is given out and who's going to control that.
I can speak to that. Well, our intent is to invest in West Oahu specifically, and it's really going to be probably up to the pig to really kind of determine what things that, what kind of investments they want to see in the community. And we're going to work pretty closely with them to help figure that out. But right now, our intent is definitely to invest, in West Oahu specifically. So, and that's why we're, happy to be a part of the PIG process, so we can help identify some of the things that are important. Mahalo, everyone. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Yes, let's give Steve a picture.
No, I definitely appreciate the time today, and great, thoughtful questions. And I will make sure that you have my contact information. So if you have any other follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to me anytime. I'm happy to talk anytime, answer any questions you have. And if you're in California and you want to look at a facility, or anywhere where you think there may be a facility, please let me know, because we can certainly arrange something to have you go visit one.
So much. We
All right.
really appreciate you coming.
All right, thank you.
Maybe I.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Aloha.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I do.